Not till it says, not till it says, not till it says. Hi, we're live. Just met a friend from the South Coast doing what people should do, which is be human and interact with like minds. And we can tell, who's a like mind. We use our instincts, we use our unconscious bias, and we can predict these outcomes. So we sat by a fire talking last night and got some brilliant ideas to share. And this is what we encourage you all to do, really. So it was an interesting talk this morning about something that's come up to do with Biden, and his
Sleepy Joe.
Yeah, Sleepy Joe, that's the one. And what he's talking about is the trade deal being in jeopardy now, isn't it?
It's not in jeopardy.
It's not going to happen with him, is it?
He's not. They'd have to push very, very hard and pull off something spectacular and get it past every security agency in America and all of the public and all of the media, and can't be done.
No.
And all it takes to derail it is Trump getting over 50% of the vote.
Yes. Yeah.
As soon as that happens, all the mail-in voting gets counted, and if that's over the remainder of the vote left to be counted, then it's been dodgy.
Yes, you do, indeed.
And don't know what happens after them when they declare it null and void because they've cheated.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose the incumbent stays on.
Yeah, indeed. With Section 230, we won't even hear, straight away, will we? I mean, because also people are being monitored, whether they're producing their own news by altering, just broadcasts things that they come across, or and being prevented, from being they could be sued, basically, can't they? Just putting out the truth.
I have a way to get around that.
Yeah. How?
Don't link to anything and type in German.
Yeah, that's a good way.
Because if it's not illegal under German law, Twitter don't remove it.
Oh, that's interesting. That's a good one. I like that. So yeah, what's happening in the elections in America is going to be quite dire for us all, with a trade deal, if that doesn't come off. And we've got people over here supporting change and anti-Trump, like Sadiq. And Boris is saying that he's standing up. We had that big headline. He's standing up to Sadiq, and he's,
In
not
a way.
Yeah, laughable, really.
Not standing up to Sadiq.
No, but it was trying to reassure us all, wasn't it? But because we're seeing this mad stuff from him all the time.
He's trying desperately, but the media have revealed the truth. And
it was a bridge.
Yes, one bridge.
Yeah, one bridge. He burned a bridge, and Sadiq is still sitting on his throne, trying to make all the statues resemble him and his desire to be important, perhaps.
And hopefully, they spent a headline saying that Sean Bailey's got a chance against him.
Really?
Because he's rising in the polls.
Oh, okay.
But then you speak to conservative people who are following Sean Bailey, and they all say he's not out and about enough. He's not spreading a message.
Mm-hmm.
He only ever pops up on Twitter when there's a random issue with the assembly not doing something sensible. But they've got no power anyway.
No,
They're like the civil service.
They do. And we had Anna Breeze talking about how she disliked this American show.
She said that Tucker Carlson wasn't a journalist.
That's right.
That she didn't like the direction that he's gone in.
No. And somebody came out in his defence, didn't they, recently? And they got
everybody on Twitter's come out in his defence. And
yeah.
they've all decided to block her on unfollow her because they didn't like the comment.
And there was another thing about Soros funding the Black Lives Matter, wasn't it?
Yes. Newt Gingrich was in an interview and he decided to openly say that George Soros was funding the appointment of prosecutors and judges to get all of these BLM and Antifa writers out of the way, and so that they could be pro-criminal and wreck America.
Yeah.
And because he said it, there was some hubbub, and all of a sudden it cut, and he was not allowed to speak anymore.
As it does,
and they had to decry the fact that he brought up George Soros.
Oh dear. The unspeakable name. Yeah, you could say backwards and it still sounds satanic and weird.
Well, Soros backwards is Soros.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, man, indeed.
Grog.
Yeah.
Soros grog.
Yeah, same in satanic
speak. In some language.
It must mean something. It's pretty bizarre. Whatever it means is something that's pretty difficult to speak about, And yeah, we've had a guy up there talking. Says London can't be saved thanks to demographics.
Demographics, whoever they are, still have to respond to the situation they're in. So if people are dying, especially their children, and it will get to that point, then they will turn on whoever's leading and try to take over.
Well, yes, and they'll eat themselves and their leaders like they do in Africa. and it'll be a ever-revolving cycle.
Even with Sadiq Khan being in the majority population of what London is now, they'll turn on their own as soon as he doesn't do something that they wish.
Yeah,
he has to keep going more Islamic to keep the vote. And
that's interesting.
It will get to a point where they won't vote for him.
And people won't go to London. People won't want to go to London, will they?
People have always stopped going to London.
Yeah.
And they only turn up for the protests.
It's not on my tourist list, even though it's 20 miles away at the moment, for sure.
Even going through it yesterday, I didn't want to hang about.
No.
Weird, with no one about.
Exactly. It's not what it used to be. It's fallen, if you like. It's almost biblical. So now we'll soon have sort of what do they call it? When they bash something like as you're in the third world, not effigies.
Yes.
I mean, I always think blimps are one step away from effigies, taking the mickey out of something, and then
Why blimps?
Blimps because of what Sadiq did with Trump.
Oh.
Childish, isn't it? All that money wasted as well.
Well, they made one in retaliation.
Yeah, but it's childish. It's sort of like degrading sort of normal sensibility, isn't it?
That's the tactic, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Gently.
Till we don't notice, what's happening. So we don't notice. Yeah, it's bizarre.
So you have to pay attention.
We do have to pay
Notice
attention.
people.
We do.
Please
we
notice.
do. And I'm worried about restrictions on the internet, preventing people from meeting and talking. So I've always.
There are no restrictions on the internet.
Not yet. No. Well, I mean, apart from if you talk about 5G and COVID linked, they'll block you. A lot of my videos have gone from YouTube because of them being removed. Rich Allen videos. So people do get. I'll put it on the naughty step.
Torrent sites, people.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make yourself a video hosting computer that you only keep the videos on. That's all you've got to have on it.
I know.
And then torrent sites to link to the videos.
That's one option for sure. Indeed. I'm concerned about it. I did want to get lots more meetings and meetups a few years ago because I ran a conspiracy theory group in London, a meetup group. But it didn't get off the ground. But I think meetups in person are the way to go ahead. But I mean, really, you just realise how much empathy there is with common understanding and Christian sort of thinking. Even if we're not staunch Christians, we don't go to church every week, but we have a cultural understanding of what we think is normal morality and what we don't. And if we lose that because we don't see it projected on the BBC, it's refreshing to find it when you actually talk with people in person. Like the fact that we don't find it's normal to use your kids to, make a point about suffering, or, use your ancestors to make a point about suffering.
It's a basic admission that you don't know how to be a parent if you have to use a child to push cause.
I think so. But I mean, you look at what happens in the Middle East, and they always use them as bomb shields, and then the crying tears of the children. But you do find that kind of thing, the mentality like the gypsy sort of with a child, say, please help me, and things like that. It just seems so degrading, and the nobility that you need to get out of a situation isn't by using those means.
It's child abuse.
It is. But I feel the same when they use the bones of their ancestors, like getting a corpse. It's very macabre, and puppeting it and saying, look what you did to this person who was related to me, died 200 years ago. I mean,
that's exactly what's going on with Black Lives Matter.
It's very macabre. You're playing a war game with dead people. These people no longer live.
Anything that they can grab hold of to appear as though they've been persecuted and someone needs to get out of their way.
Yes.
Even though everybody lives in the same system, and if one person's successful within it, anybody could be successful within it.
Yes.
But nobody seems to notice that all you have to do is know how to work the system. And the system's quite simple. It's produce something, ask someone to buy it.
Indeed.
Done.
And if you do fail in life and you're unlucky, there's a Christian solution, a philosophy behind that some people are unlucky in life. You try your best, and it's your honor and understanding of your position in the world that we don't all make it. We don't all get the rewards. And these are the things that, knowing our place and knowing these Christian ways, were just normal to people before.
That's why you need community.
Yes, you did.
Stop it. The wider stranger public may not want to get involved just because it's new. But if you have neighbors or even your own town, you just part away from everything. Just set up your own economy. You know how capitalism works?
Absolutely.
As long as you get a receipt for what you buy.
It's a sense of self. It's the ego defense mechanism, the ego seeking something for itself. The ego defense mechanism means that you can't criticize certain groups of people without touching a very raw nerve, and the nerve that they don't want to reach themselves, that maybe some responsibility for their own actions, their own demise within themselves, but they're told can be explained by, you know, how they look. Or
I think that furthers the cause, because it can only get to a point where lots of people cotton on to the same criticism, and if they see that it's a true criticism, then someone will eventually shy away and analyze themselves.
Also, when government says it's the people are suffering because they have a poor upbringing or poverty, and that throwing money at the situation is going to make it better, it makes people think that this is the way forward.
Economic circumstance when you're born doesn't mean anything. It's mindset as soon as you're capable of doing things by yourself. And
it absolves people of personal responsibility, and keeps them childlike to think that they need to be fed from the spoon in order to achieve. And that's what other people, like maybe us or people in the world generally, have had, because they assume we have that privilege. It's not so, is it?
It's hard to know where it comes from. You need this big brother or Uber daddy.
It is. But it's taken root in people's understanding, and they've mixed up Christianity with it. So whereas Christianity may have been separate from politics and state, now with the state using Christianity as Justin Welby says, you know, we're too white, we're too we have to think more like socialists as our duty towards, you know, the world rather than our communities and ourselves, a duty towards a sort of a colonial idea about the world. And that we're not really in a very prime position as Christians. He's not even upholding the Christian faith in a traditional sense anymore.
He's treating God like a fallible human.
Like it's something that can change in order to fit humanity.
Yes. God exists outside of space and time.
Indeed.
And whether you think of it as something real or just a visual metaphor for a wider conscious and the laws of nature.
It's untouchable, isn't it, really?
God isn't a human.
No.
It's not physical. You can't attack it in the same way.
Yes, indeed.
It's a mindset.
So they're making this beast that isn't a humanist Christianity now. Whereas Christianity was within us all and worked in a far different way previously.
And humanism is the downfall.
Indeed, we don't want to look up to something that resembles ourselves for our own acceptance.
This is where you get the leftist SJW gender LGBT thing of separating the world from the body and thinking that it doesn't have to comply to natural law because they think that God is physical.
Yes, indeed, they do. That's a very important point.
They think if God is physical, then they can be like a god.
Yes, absolutely.
And humans aren't gods.
No, we've seen this plan in Christianity many times. If you could conquer the earth, and this is again why we choose not to be putting down statues and try to know a place in the order which doesn't use those means.
The world can't exist under one mindset,
no,
and the more you try and force it, the more it separates people. And
very true.
That's the plan.
Indeed. Is there anything else we'd like to broach before we can finish off? We've got a few more minutes.
Absolutely anything you like.
Anybody got questions? I don't know if they're going to come up with
something
one now.
Weird and
maybe
wonderful.
Not. Okay, let's think about something where we see ourselves if we are put in a position how can we be fatalistic and not prepare for the worst and be brave about the situation? You have a way of thinking about it, don't you?
You're a baby in a field.
Yeah.
Imagine you have nothing and all you have is nature. And the only relationship you have with anybody is with the voice in your head.
So nobody can actually invade you and tell you and control you to the degree that we fear they might.
You treat everybody as a stranger until you're not worried that they're going to be strange.
Indeed.
And even though that's not permanent and you can't guarantee it, take everybody as an individual.
Indeed.
Individuality is the key. Don't collectivize anything.
No.
The second you start collectivizing and you treat everybody the same, intentionally, you hyperinflate their differences.
Indeed.
And then that's what brings the tension and the unconformability.
Very true.
Which is why individuality exists.
It
and
does.
It's important to keep hold of it.
It does. And also your unconscious sense about things, that without needing their papers, and because their papers could be just what they hide behind, without using the facade of their power and authority, just trust your instincts.
People aren't who they are written on paper.
No.
It's just a bit of paper.
It is. Anyway, I think we'll just leave it there for now. That was a good one. I've enjoyed every minute of that.
Yeah.
Bye for now. Good, that was a good one. You can watch it back. We'll see.